निवासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते.
Hi guys, today Sanjeev Sanyal wrote a report on Economic Times debunking some of the myths of the hunger index, global hunger index. And I haven't read the report yet. I'll read it along with as you guys watch the video. But I just read the headline and he was talking about how global benchmarks might not and should not be applicable to India, which is not to say that India does not have a malnutrition problem, but global benchmarks are not applicable in India. And I think I know what he might be talking about, because as I was discussing in the Anshul Jubilee video, that our body types are entirely different from Westerners. Every race has a different body type. Look at Southeast Asians. If you apply the global benchmark to Southeast Asia, you all might think that okay, the entire Southeast Asia is malnourished and underfed. You know what I'm talking about. And like in India, if you see a 6 feet tall guy who works out a bit, who is about 72-75 kgs heavy, he might be a pretty big and tall heavy guy all around, at least in Eastern India. Maybe not in Punjab and Delhi. But by Western standards, that's nothing, because as you can see in UFC, he would fall in the lightweight category. That's 155 pounds. Above that, there are so many divisions in UFC because their body types are different. Above lightweight, there is welterweight, then middleweight, then light heavyweight, then heavyweight. Because in USA, even a lot of fit guys go around walking around at 200 pounds, 220 pounds, 230 pounds. They are fit, not obese guys. So our body types are different, and a lot of that has become this way. Our body type has become this way after colonization, obviously, because as I was mentioning in the previous video as well, in the Anshul Jubilee video, that Rashmi Samant mentioned in the Vad podcast, that she has data about how colonization and so many famines after famines because of even Mughals, etc., that led to our general decline in height and weight as an entire population. But let's first check out Sanjeev Sanyal's Twitter thread regarding this topic, and then we'll read the exact report. So he writes, my joint article with Srishti Chauhan in today's Economic Times on how the use of an inappropriate global standard for childhood stunting means the stopping of increase of growth in kids. Stunting significantly overstates the level of malnutrition in India. We need to actively question standards and data put forward by international agencies. Again, different kinds of colonization still going on. The colonial mindset. The WHO standard for stunting is based on a sample from 6 arbitrary countries and included kids from affluent South Delhi. Even in that survey, the Indians were found shorter than those from Norway, US, etc. Obviously. So are the best fed Indian kids stunted or naturally smaller? Exactly what I was talking about. The medical profession has been long aware of this issue and developed indigenous matrices for childhood growth. When these are used, the level of stunting is still high, but much lower than what is suggested by WHO standard. Similarly, our data gathering agencies need greater application of mind. Only then will our socio-economic debates be based on meaningful data and standards, and we will free ourselves from the sensationalism of activist reports like Global Hunger Index. Okay, Mr. Gurumurthy was saying, average height increased in the Netherlands, Japan, etc. after World War II due to better nutrition. In the US, economic inequality results in lower average stature. Now let's read the exact detailed report. It is important to have clear benchmarks to measure socioeconomic progress. However, a blanket application of global standards in India does not always present the true picture. This issue is explored here by exploring stunting as a measure of child malnutrition. The metric has been recently at the center of controversy related to the Global Hunger Index. That this name is itself misleading is another debate. According to the National Family Health Survey of 2019-2020, the prevalence of stunting in the 0 to 5 year age bracket is 35.5%, in rural areas 37.3%, urban areas 30.1%. This is down from 38.4% in 2015-16 and sharply lower than 48% in 2005-2006. While it is heartening to see progress, the indicator suggests that over a third of Indian children suffer from stunting. Is this a true reflection of the ground situation? Stunting is defined as low height for age and is associated with chronic undernourishment. The global benchmark used in India is derived from the World Health Organization, but how did WHO arrive at the benchmark? It turns out that it is based on a multi-center growth reference study done in 1997-2003. This was a combination of a longitudinal sample of 1743 infants aged 0 to 24 months and a cross-section of 6,697 children aged 18 to 71 months. The samples were drawn from 6 countries: India and South Delhi, Oman, Ghana, Brazil, Norway, and the US. WHO then pooled the data to create a global benchmark range for childhood growth. A sample of 1490 from India was taken from South Delhi on the grounds that children from this relatively affluent neighborhood have access to adequate nutrition and healthcare, thereby reaching their full growth potential. Interestingly, even in the original study, the Omanis and Indians were consistently shorter than the others. For example, at 60 to 62 months, the average Ghanaian child was 112.55 centimeters, Brazilian 111.15 centimeters, and Norwegian was 110.64 centimeters compared to 108.78 centimeters for Indian and 109.55 centimeters for the Omani. In other words, the best fed Indian child was shorter than the average even in the benchmark study. As can be seen, the MGRS uses a very small sample taken from just 6 arbitrary countries to create a global one-size-fits-all benchmark. There is no reason given for the selection of these 6 countries that leaves out the large populations of East and Southeast Asia, who are generally shorter. Indeed, countries like Indonesia have had to devise their own benchmarks. Even in India, the medical profession has long been aware that the WHO benchmark is unsuitable for the country and has come up with alternative growth charts. When one set of these indigenous benchmarks was applied in 2021, Hirabai Kausaji Jahangir Medical Research Institute Savitribai Phule Pune University study on the NFHS 2015-2016 data, the prevalence of stunting in India dropped from 38.4% to 27%. A more recent paper published in the February 2023 issue of The Lancet similarly compares NFHS 2019-2020 to an indigenous standard. The benchmark is based on the observed growth trajectory of urban middle and upper middle class children in 5 geographical zones of India. The disaggregation has the advantage of allowing for state-wise measurement of stunting based on more localized benchmarks. The study found that all India stunting in 2019-2020 declined to 24% when the indigenous benchmark was used. The differences are even larger in individual states. For example, stunting in Andhra Pradesh went from 28% based on the WHO benchmark to 19% using the local upper middle class standard, Maharashtra from 33% to 23%, and Uttar Pradesh from 37% to 27%. Interestingly, the same discrepancy shows up when WHO and local standards are used for another indicator of malnutrition, that is wasting, low weight to height. The prevalence of wasting in 2019-2020 is 19% using the WHO standard, but only 9% while using the local upper middle class standard. As can be seen, the blanket use of the global benchmark overstates India's child malnutrition problem. This is not to suggest that malnutrition is not a serious issue. The percentage of malnourished children is high even using the local standard, but effective policymaking requires accurate measurement. The problem with the one-size-fits-all WHO benchmarks was highlighted over a decade ago by Arvind Panagaria. Countries such as Indonesia, the US, and even European countries like Britain have developed local benchmarks. Unfortunately, India's own government data collection agencies inexplicably continue to use the WHO standards. Equally puzzling is the insistence of economists on using inappropriate global standards when the medical profession has moved on. This brings us to a broader issue. Many of the heated debates around India's development indicators are related to poor data collection, inappropriate benchmarking, outdated methodologies, and inordinate delays in publication, issues that we will explore later. Sanyal is a member and Chauhan is a young professional of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, EAC-PM.
Jaya Jaya He Mahishasura Mardini Ramyaka Pardini Jaya